Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you switch on your camera?
Yes, I'm so.
How are you?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you.
Shruti, you are joining from which place?
So I'm joining from Thane city in Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. Okay. Just having a look at your DAF.
Yes.
So you have done your BA in 2019.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Since then you have been doing something?
Yes, sir. I'm currently a postgraduate student of the King's College London. So I'm studying global affairs. And so, but I'm on a break since 2023 because I got into the IRMS through CSE 2021, and I've taken a year also to attempt again.
Okay. So what were your experience in 2021 interview?
So the 2022, so I gave the interview in 2022. So my experience was, it was a very pleasant conversation. So I was actually the last person to go in, and the interview ran very late. It was already 4:45. So everyone was, the board was very jolly. So they just wanted to have a pleasant conversation because I'm thinking they had a really long day. So it was generally about my experiences in London and things I like there, things I don't like, and a basic comparison between India and the UK, sir.
Okay. Your interview date has come?
No, sir, not yet.
So you have time. And which is your first and second preference of services?
Sir, my first preference is the Indian Administrative Service. Second is the Indian Police Service. Yes, sir, these two are my first and the second.
You are pursuing global affairs, you said, at King's College.
Yes, sir.
But you did not prefer foreign service.
Yes, sir. Sir, with the kind of experiences I've had with an international education, and I've also lived abroad, so that made me realize that I want to be spending the majority time of my life, if given an option, within India. So, and when I had the option to pick, I thought that Indian Administrative Service and Indian Police Service would give me that opportunity. So I would be happy to serve in any of the services that I get. But sir, since I had the option, I thought that I would prefer to live and work in the country, sir.
You already joined and you're on leave from Indian Railway Management Service.
Yes, sir.
You know that earlier there used to be specialized service in the railways.
Yes, sir.
Right? And suddenly the government decided to merge all the services.
Yes, sir.
Do you think it's a wise move?
I think that merging the 8 services into a unified IRMS would provide a kind of interoperability between all of the services that were earlier divided. So when we went for the introductory lecture, we were told that the 8 services still exist, just that everyone would be training together. And earlier there used to be separate recruitments, and now we'll have a unified recruitment, and you will get to pick a stream later into the training. So I believe that there is still the whole corpus of 8 services that exist. It is just to ensure better coordination and efficient public service delivery. We've brought them under a unified umbrella, sir.
Okay. Now you are a global affairs student. What is happening between India and Maldives?
So it started off as a tourism campaign. So actually, I'm sorry, so if I may go back a little bit more, it started off with the election in Maldives when there was a new party under President Moizu that was formed, which came to power. So, and President Moizu of Maldives has always shown a kind of specific inclination to other powers in Asia, namely China, close ties with them as compared to India. So, and President Moizu's entire campaign was built on the India Out slogan, because he believed that India was acting as a big brother and interfering in Maldivian affairs. So it started off like that. And it has escalated into a geopolitical tension between the two nations when there is a competition for whose beaches are better. And so also recent President Moizu's visit to China, when earlier presidents have set a precedent that they first visit India. Generally, after getting elected, India is the first country that a Moldavian president visits. So that convention was broken. All of this is creating a kind of tension between the relations.
People have now started talking that future will be the arena for three countries. They say United States, China, and India. They will be playing the key role in days to come or years to come. Will you agree with this statement? If yes or no, why?
So I think that moving forward, the world is only getting more multipolar. Sir, and I do think that India, China, and United States of America will come across as key players. So, but predominantly because these three, India is one of the fastest growing economy, and we are the fifth largest economy today. We also have one of the youngest populations among the three. So United States has conventionally been a military and an economic power. So and China is also catching up to the United States as its primary competition. So yes, I would say that India, US, and China would be key players. But so at the same time, I would say that the other nations would also come to play an important role. And these three countries will not be the only three dominating, because we still have Russia. We have nations like Egypt that are coming forward and becoming stronger. So the European Union is also a strong competition, and individual countries within Europe as well. So I think that the world will only get more multipolar rather than three poles emerging.
Recently, Supreme Court gave a judgment in Bilkis Bano case. Can you tell me the important parts of the judgment, very briefly?
Yes, sir. So the Bilkis Bano case dates back to the 2002 Gujarat riots, when there was a gang rape and a murder involving Bilkis Bano and her daughter. So that is when the perpetrators were convicted by the Bombay High Court, because there was an appeal made in the Gujarat High Court that they would not be able to give an independent decision because the crime was committed in the state itself. So it was transferred to the Bombay High Court, who gave them life imprisonment. However, sir, after serving 14 years, they put forward an appeal for remission first in the High Court in Gujarat. However, that was squashed, sir, because they believed that they should not be given any kind of remission. Then they approached the High Court in Maharashtra without telling the High Court, without revealing the information that they had already approached the High Court in Gujarat. So then the Maharashtra High Court also did not agree to their remission. And so that is when they appealed to set up a remission board, which actually set them free last year in 2022. And then, so later now, in a recent judgment, the Supreme Court said that the state of Gujarat acted against their outside their authority and jurisdiction, and that they should be sent back to prison, sir.
What do you understand by remission of sentence?
So remission of sentence would mean that you reduce the time period someone serves in prison.
Why?
So it could be on multiple grounds, but from what I understand is if you have been on good behavior, and if you can prove that you will not be a nuisance to the society once you are out.
Okay. Thank you, Shruti. Over to Dr. Vijay Kumar.
Thank you, sir.
Shruti, you said that you have stayed and studied abroad.
Yes.
Why?
Sir, actually, I gave 2 attempts it was never a part of my initial plan, sir. But as they say, plans are meant to go away. So I did not qualify my prelims for 2 attempts. And so that's why I wanted to also have something as a backup plan. So I applied for masters. So I did look for courses here, but because I had already studied in the Mumbai University, I wanted to try something else. So that is why I applied to the King's College.
Okay. Now there are many educational institutions named in London. I mean, many institutions named in London after King. But
Yes.
there is none named after Queen.
Yes.
Why is it
Yes.
so?
So the institutions are actually named based on the patronage that was given to them by their respective rulers. So, as you said, majority of the institutions are named after King because they have been patronized by King Edward and King Charles and George particularly. So there is an institute called as Queen's Mary, which is named after.
Okay. And what do you think about the nexus between Mumbai and Thane? I mean, their organic relationship, etc., etc.
So I think that Thane is naturally emerging as an extension of Mumbai. With the overcrowding and the over-urbanization in Mumbai, a huge part of the population that actually works in Mumbai lives in Thane and travels to Mumbai every day. So it is naturally extending as an arm of Mumbai. And so if I might say so, it has become even more crowded and even more congested than Mumbai today.
So the city of Mumbai, which was known, which was infamous for certain activities, do you think those activities will also shift to Thane or have already shifted?
So there was recently a case around New Year's where a illicit drug criminal case was busted in Thane, so in the Yehur Hills. So by an understanding of that, we can say that the criminal world of Mumbai is also sliding into Thane. But so because the forces have already dealt with such a situation in Mumbai, I believe that they are more prepared to nip it in the bud when it comes to Thane.
Okay. Now, there are two specific instances which I am quoting. One is actor Sushant Singh's death, and second is about arrest of Aryan Khan.
Yes.
What do you think? What, in your opinion, these two incidents reflect about, Mumbai police? What does it reflect?
So I've always lived in Mumbai my entire life, and we've held Mumbai police in some of the highest regards. We always say that the city is safe only because Mumbai police is believed to be one of the finest police organizations in the country. So, but I also think that there are minor slippages here and there, but they should not be considered upon the entire police force. I think that it is one of incidents where there was some due negligence and some tampering, but I would not reflect it upon the entire police force.
No, I agree with you, but are you in agreement with the statement that Scotland of India is sliding down the drain?
So I would not say that about the police force.
Okay, okay. Now, what are your hobbies?
So I enjoy playing the piano. I also like doing calligraphy and training in the gyms.
Okay, what do you understand by calligraphy and different types of it?
So in essence, calligraphy can be understood as the simple art of designing and execution of letters. So, and there are various styles and forms of calligraphy. Some of them include the Gothic style, copperplate, modern freeform. So then there are the regional scripts of Urdu, Devanagari, Chinese.
Okay, all the best. If you have to sell Thane at some international level, suppose in your own King's College London, what will be your selling points?
I would say that it is a beautiful city of lakes. We have more than 30 lakes. So there is something for everyone here. If you like water bodies. If water body is not your thing, then we also have very beautiful Yehur Hills if you're more of a mountain person. So it has a township kind of model in Thane where you get everything from schools to shops to basic amenities in and hands reach of where you live. So it's a very livable city.
Okay, all the best. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Varun.
Shruti, you play the piano.
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Right. Can you name some famous female women pianists of India?
Of India. So I know that we have MS Shubhu-Lakshmi, but she's not a pianist. She's a musician, so she plays all the instruments, but not. So I'm so sorry, I cannot recall any female pianists.
So there's a very famous pianist who actually gave the soundtrack for Sacred Games and various other movies, along with the other composers. Any idea?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, sir.
Okay, right. What about foreign pianists? Which one do you know?
So presently, I've been religiously following a South Korean pianist, Iruma. And if we look at the classics, my favorite has always been Beethoven, basically because it was the first complete performance play that I did.
Okay, right. Interestingly, if you see that, despite staying abroad, you've chosen the IAS, right? What part of London didn't you like? So that, you decided never to be there.
So if for the sake of argument, I'll say that I absolutely do not like the weather.
Okay.
There's no sun, and that is practically very depressing.
Okay.
So, and it's always, living abroad was always never a part of my plan. I never wanted to live abroad.
Yeah, but considering, see, if you look at your profile, we think you'll choose IFS, right? But you've chosen the IS, which is totally fine. And obviously, we always need a global perspective to our, local administration as well. But when we, talk about London, right? And, it's a lot of, a lot of imagination comes to it, right? When you say you live in London or you study at King's College, right? So what are the places which make London such a historical place and such a lovely place to live?
So the imagination that you spoke about, so I think it's a huge part of the British colonial narrative that they've been building for so many years, and they've been amplified. The perspective of London has been amplified, sometimes even out of proportion, if I might say, because it is a marshy alley at the end of the day. But yes, there are a few spots that are beautiful to visit in London. So there's a Shakespeare Theatre. That is a must visit for anyone who enjoys theatre. So we also have the London Eye that gives you a whole 360-degree view of the city. And it also makes you feel like everything in life is so small and tiny. So it takes you on a whole philosophical journey. And so there is the Thames River, which was a time when it was a very pristine and a pretty river. But now it's what's happening to every water body across the world.
Okay, right. So as a student of international affairs, right, there's an issue in the Essequibo region in Venezuela, Guyana. Have you read about that? Venezuela and Guyana have a territorial dispute recently. Any idea about that?
No, sir, I'm so sorry.
Haven't gone about that. Okay. Argentina has a new president, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's his name?
Sir, he's a young president. I'm so sorry, I'm not able to remember his name. I know he's a young president.
If you remember.
Yeah, yes, sir. And he used to also be a comedian, and he is a stand-up comedian. So I'm so sorry, I'm not able to recall his name.
Okay, right. Moving ahead, he has, there's something called, anarcho-capitalism that he professes, right? An extreme
yes, sir.
capitalism, right? What is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the Argentinian president says is that the state should not be involved in anything. He is a strong anti-socialist, and he says that there is absolutely no role of the state, and the market, the capitalist class and the market can take care of everything. So he's talked a lot about cutting down complete subsidies and also tailoring back on support plans for the disadvantaged sections. And there was a recent protest also regarding the same.
So he talked about, he wanted to put, dollar as the currency, right? Dollarization of the economy, that's what is planned?
Yes,
Any
I
idea?
think so. So I think Argentina has already been using the US dollar as its official currency, which is also one of the cause of its economic crisis.
Right. Now, if we compare it to the European Union, how is it different, that using the dollar in comparison to, let's say, using the euro?
So the use of dollar in terms of America gives it a more economic advantage. But sir, if we talk in particularly in terms of Argentina, using the dollar or using the the EU currency would not make a lot of difference to Argentina because it would still be a foreign currency and they would have to deal with the exchange rates. So, but I think that in terms of America, it would definitely benefit America more because it gives it the kind of economic superiority when dollar becomes the valued currency.
Okay, right, maybe. Moving ahead, if we think about other nations, right? Africa comes to mind, right? And there's lots of coups in Africa in the last few years, right?
Yes.
What do you think is the reason for that? There's Gabon, there's a
The
Niger, right? Various states.
Congo, yes, sir.
The Congo,
So
Kivu.
So I think a primary reason for the coups in Africa could be political instability. So the civilian government coups generally happen when the civilian government is not able to provide the basic amenities and the basic support to the people. That is when they turn to a force which is non-state because they vow to provide those kind of security which the civilian government is unable to. So I think that is one of the reasons. And I also think that Africa is become a great ground for global powers to just use the various militant groups there as their puppet to destabilize governments that they don't like. So case in point being China is believed to quote unquote support a lot of militant groups to destabilize governments in Congo. So and I also think that Africa suffers through the resource curse where too much resources breed too much violence.
Right. In the last few years in the Western world, we have like crazy inflation, right? Most people living in London have been complaining about the inflation rates, right? So did you experience it yourself? What has happened to it?
So I was there as a student, so I was already living on a very a crunch of finances. But yes, sir, there were a lot of protests relating to inflation because there was a time in London where the supermarket racks used to be completely empty because it became so difficult for even supermarkets to procure goods at competitive prices. So they preferred just not to procure it. And then there used to be the ultra luxurious supermarkets, which used to have everything at a premium price. So, sir, the cost of living crisis in London was real. It still is. So I think that is what is affecting the entire Western world as well.
Okay. Being a student living abroad, right? There's the recent case of Canadian students, Indian students in a Canadian university protesting against some unfair marking practices in an exam that they've been failed. Have you heard about that one? Well, this issue that is.
So about this particular issue about the unfair grading, so I think in Punjab, it happened through the entrance. So I'm sorry, I know that there have been strained ties between India and Canada, but not on the particular marking issue.
This is the student issue. There's some students who were failed at a university in Canada and they felt that they have been marked unfairly, case of racism, etc., etc. Any idea about that?
No, sir.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Shruti.
Hello.
Now, you've talked about that how London and UK in general has been facing crippling crises, whether it's inflation, problems of lack of commodities reaching them. Do you think in hindsight, the Brexit made the situation worse in the contemporary times for them?
Ma'am, that is what the small scale entrepreneurs or small scale businesses say, that earlier they had a bigger market, that was the entire EU, but now it is limited to London. And then it becomes difficult for them to find newer markets because it is a very small, it's almost like a very small city with a very small population. So it becomes very difficult to find newer markets. So the small businesses are the ones that are suffering the most. So, ma'am, that is the general sentiment among the people now, that maybe the Brexit was not such a good idea, especially between the business communities.
Right. So access to markets can be one idea. The other is also the contentious debate that has been going on with respect to immigration, right? UK has constantly suffered this problem, right? It's an issue which has been also played in the politics, right? It was also one of the main reasons why Brexit became such a huge thing. And yet, in the post-Brexit phenomena, one of the reasons why commodities could not reach specific markets was also due to lack of immigrants who would be readily doing those jobs. And now you just did not have that entire population. And yet, in recent times, the Prime Minister is again hitting on this issue of curtailing and curbing immigration anymore. Do you think that's going to be the right move for UK?
Ma'am, I think that UK and specifically London is a city that is actually made out of immigrants. But the recent government, especially under Rishi Sunak, is coming down very strongly on immigrants with stop the boat campaigns and visa declining. Even the India-UK trade issue, one of the biggest contentious issue is the visa liberalization for Indians. Ma'am, I think that London and the UK as a whole would benefit more if it continues to allow free flow of people, because the entire country is anyway built on migrants, and they are the ones who not just fuel the working class but also are the consumers. So, ma'am, I think this entire, it could be seen as a political campaign, but it is somewhere disrupting the economy.
Right. Now, since the onslaught of the global recession, then the world being hit by the COVID pandemic, there has been a heightened debate with respect to increasing inequalities. Do you think, in your view, that democratic capitalism today is dead?
Ma'am, I won't say that it is dead, but I think that would be an extreme statement. But ma'am, I would definitely say that it is declining. Because, ma'am, I believe that somewhere the COVID-19 pandemic entered the entire world into an economic rat race where we've become self-funding machines in terms of countries. So, ma'am, I think that somewhere the
But do you
concept
think
of
the decline of democratic capitalism is a product of just these recent, say, 5-6 years or even the recent decade? Or is it a product of longer cyclical problems and the very system of democratic capitalism? Right? In political theory, a lot of critics have said that placing democratic capitalism, it's almost it's
oxymoron.
dichotomous, right?
Yes.
So do you think there are certain inherent problems in the way that we imagine the system?
Ma'am, it was pitted to be one of the best solutions by political theorists because it takes the best of both worlds and it tries to find a balance between the two. But in essence, the two concepts become contradictory to each other. Ma'am, nations have been building upon it, but taking the socialist ideas, and I would not say socialist, but the public welfare oriented ideas along with the business interest can sometimes become difficult to find a balance. Ma'am, but I won't say that this is an idea that we should completely discard, because it has been proven to be the best way moving forward, because businesses and welfare needs to coexist.
Do you think the rise of crony capitalism across the world and in India is actually straining this relationship between democracy and capitalism?
Ma'am, I think crony capitalism somewhere erodes the trust of the people in the elected government. And because they feel like the elected government is no longer serving the interest of the people who voted for them, but for a select few. Ma'am, I think that it is eroding the democratic trust, but democracy has always stood the test of time. So, ma'am, I also think that it is the people who need to decide what kind of democratic culture they need to build, ma'am, because democracy is at the end of the day built by the people.
Now, Shruti, in recent times, in fact, last year, we witnessed the death of a US foreign policy and international relations legend, right? Can you recall who that person was?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not able to recall the name, but I know the foreign policy.
Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger. Henry
Right?
Kissinger, yes.
Now, can you maybe point out certain extremely critical events and issues that Kissinger was associated with, the repercussions of which we are witnessing even today in contemporary global politics?
Ma'am, Henry Kissinger played a very important role in shaping United States foreign policy. Ma'am, he was also the one who gave the theory that there will never be a unified world order because every nation in the world is going to subscribe to something else. And ma'am, I think that is a kind of theory that most of the nations are leaning towards, including India, when we say that we'd be taking decisions based on our own nation, our own interest. So, ma'am, I think that is one theory of Henry Kissinger. And ma'am, United States foreign policy, especially in terms of the Middle East, was largely shaped by Henry Kissinger. There
Do you
were
think
some
the
issues that he did not agree.
the ongoing Palestine, the Gaza conflict, the crisis that we witness there even today, in some part, Kissinger's hawkish realism contributed to the same?
Ma'am, I'm not entirely aware about Kissinger's contribution.
Now, we were talking of the expansion of urbanization to Thane. Now, one of the primary problems that not just Maharashtra, but Thane in particular has also been witnessing is the water crisis, right? Already there has been the statement of how major cities in India are going to be facing water crisis in the coming years, right? What do you think are the reasons? Again, the kind of lopsided development that has been going on in Thane, does that contribute to it? How does one manage it? Right? And what can be certain ways out to deal with this problem of water crisis in large urban areas?
Ma'am, I think a huge reason for the water crisis is the unconscious use of water. People are not being conscious with how much water they're using or rather wasting. And even though it might look like it's been done on a small scale, but when so many people do it cumulatively, it amounts to a lot of wastage of water. Ma'am, second reason could be because there have been a lot of construction projects going on. There are around a little over 2,200 construction projects in Thane district itself, which also utilize a lot of water, which leads to wastage. I think this could be a few reasons, and there is the issue of climate change because of which the lakes are drying up, and there is also a lot of usurpation on the lake land for urbanization, which is resulting into the water crisis. Ma'am, and to answer the second part, some of the ways that we could address it is one of the element of rainwater harvesting, which was also proposed by the Thane Municipal Corporation very recently, that any new projects coming up should mandatorily have a rainwater harvesting component so that it can serve the needs of the people who live in the building itself. And ma'am, also we could bring in more because ma'am, urbanization is a reality of the district today. So we have to find ways to work with it. So, ma'am, I think another thing we could do is bring in the red components on buildings, which could help in collecting any kind of excess rainfall and use it for the other activities beyond consumption. And, ma'am, also restoration of lakes and afforestation would go a long way in addressing the crisis.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you, ma'am.
Formality is over. And when is your? You told you still don't have a date for your
Yes,
interview. Shruti, you are a good candidate. Your performance was satisfactory. You have good articulation. You have good personality. Just smile a little. Don't be, all the time. Don't be under the kind of tension that is not a good thing. You must be your normal self. Now, let me suggest that you read about current affairs.
Yes, sir.
You were not very sure of Bilkis Bano case, what you told.
Yes,
See, it's a remission given by the state government. Remission is not given by the High Court. Right? So the people may go to High Court against the remission of the accused, the victim may go to High Court saying that remission should not have been given. So it's Bilkis Bano who went to Supreme Court saying that remission was given wrongly and it should not be given. So, and the crime took place in Gujarat. The trial took place in Maharashtra because of the fear that Gujarat, the witnesses will not be able to testify So it was shifted to Maharashtra by the Supreme Court of India. So you have to be very, very careful on these things, you know. You
Yes,
must read, and especially you are a political science student and you are an international affairs student, global affairs student. So there are bound to be questions on that. And since a lot of things are taking place both within India and India in India's foreign policy as well as in world affairs, you know.
yes,
So you be read on those things. Then you should also know about Maharashtra. Recently, the speaker gave a judgment which is again a controversial on the defection. There
yes,
were good articles on Hindu analyzing how the order which he passed was not to the constitutional provisions. It was against those constitutional provisions. That may be view of a author. You may have a different view, but whatever view you have, you should be able to logically support it. And there is no necessity that you must support the government view. You can give your own view, but as I said, it must be supported with logic. You should have reasons to support that if you are asked. Otherwise, you are a good candidate. I am sure you should be able to do well. Mr. Vijay Kumar?
Two observations to make. In general, of course, you were very good, but I found that on contentious issues, you are not able to take a stand. Two specific questions asked from you on unfair grading in Canada and the police matters in Mumbai. You are not able to take a stand with justification. Plainly supporting that Mumbai police is okay, good, you still have faith and confidence in them, doesn't answer the question. To supplement what I am trying to say is, in Sushant Singh Rajput's case, they were not doing a criminal investigation.
right.
And therefore, they had no business to issue warrants, give them threat of arrest, etc., etc., etc. They were simply doing an inquiry under Section 174 CRPC, in which they had no such business, and which spoiled the whole thing of tampering of evidence and blah, 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 blah. Same thing happened in Aryan Khan. Okay, so what I'm trying to, and you are not able to take a stand in unfair grading of Canada. You should have said, yes, there is a real unfairness in grading, and there is a perceived element of unfairness in grading. It is not either or. It is a mix. In some cases, there is a real unfairness, and in some cases, there is a perceived unfairness. Probably in Canada case, since we do not know the details, but to me it seems like a perceived sense of unfairness. Okay, so you should have known the details and come out with a stand. Second example, you used the word unconscious use of water when water scarcity was being discussed. There is no unconscious use of water. Everybody is using water knowingly, consciously. So use the term like unwise use of water, like that. Now, you also suggested in the solutions rainwater harvesting. Please read about it. Rainwater harvesting has been taken up over last 2 decades in different cities, and each one of those cities has done with it. For the simple reason that rainwater harvesting is not a viable concept, a practical concept in densely urban areas. It can work in semi-urban and rural areas, but it cannot work in densely urban areas. You can't provide enough space in a densely urban area to create a water harvesting structure, which can be used only for some, say, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 days. Rest 300 days, it will get silted to an extent that next year itself it becomes useless. Okay, so think about those issues. That is all from my side. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Shruti, Alokananda Das Gupta, right? She's the pianist.
Oh, yes, I wanted to ask you the name so that I can read
Okay.
about her.
And then there is Olga Athanaide. She was the one who actually popularized piano in Mumbai region, right? And then there's Reena Ismail, but though obviously she lives abroad, right? So just because what you're a
I'll
female
read.
pianist, so obviously that's a question. Famous ones, which one? Okay, obviously, I think they will have a conversation on London and the cost of living and other things. So I came back to that because I thought that is very possibly can be asked to you, right? Then obviously the IR portions, the questions on South America and Africa were basically just to see whether you are diversely read or not, right? The Indian side, obviously, I would expect you to be ready for it, right? But I just wanted to see whether what kind of depth of interest you have there, right? That is
So,
Hmm.
so I wanted to ask you about the question relating to the currency. So I didn't quite
Okay. So what they did was that,
understand.
the idea is that, dollarization of any economy has its pros and cons. Right? So Argentina is a large economy, right? But when you are, doing allowing a different country to set the interest rates in some ways, because now you're having in dollars, you're giving away one of the tools of fiscal or monetary policy. So you only have fiscal policy left. You can only reduce or increase taxes, right? Only the physical part left is left, right? You cannot do anything about the exchange rate. You cannot do anything about the amount of money that is flowing in the economy, etc. Right? So that is the problem of dollarization, right? On the other hand, obviously, the positives can be many, right? It frees you up for, administratively in some ways. You don't have to worry about a certain portion of the economy at least. So those things, obviously, right? And then obviously, you can talk about other places where this has happened, maybe, but it's like, we are going into detail. It might not be asked, right? It depends on when is your interview. It will obviously flow like that, right? What is more in news at that time, right? But a students issue abroad, I think that's a topic that I think you should be, uh, you should be very articulate about that. You have faced it,
So,
right?
yeah.
So what is
So I'll
what
read
happened?
about it.
No, you don't need to read about it. You faced it, Shruti. You faced everything. You faced the increase in flight prices. You faced the, every single issue you have faced yourself, right? From, the issue with toilets in London, everything, right? Okay, right. So I would say that it's just, if you think about it, you'll say, "Hi, I faced it. I've seen that happening to one of my friends, if not me." Right? Okay. Is there a perceived racism against Indian students in some places? Perhaps yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, that's okay. You might not have read that. It was in news last 2 days, so I was like, okay, right. Maybe you would have seen it online or something. Okay. Right. And I believe, okay, how much did you score last time around?
So 198.
Okay. Right. We should be around the same. Hopefully, we had a better mains and we are through.
Hopefully, sir.
Yeah. Anything?
Right. Shruti, I think overall great. Just structure your arguments better, make them more precise. Sometimes it's again, there's a lot of beating around the bush at times, right? So say, for example, in democratic capitalism, right? Even if you don't agree with the fact that it's dead, it's on the decline, maybe talk about some of the reasons why it's on the decline, right? So like just mention those points, right? Don't give me a history on why it happened, how it was supposed to be balanced, that everyone will know, right? Why are we saying that there might be a crisis today? Right? So point out see what the indicator in the question is. I'm not asking you what, I've asked you why. Right? So just a little bit of that. Same with, Thane also. I think Thane, because it's an up and coming urban center, there are a number of issues associated with it. Right? So both for Maharashtra as well as for Thane, just prepare those topics very well. Right? Talk about them, maybe have a couple of one-on-ones, right? So that you can look at the kind of questions that will come. and the probable answers that will emerge. Right? Same will be because you've done global affairs. So theoretical soundness, conceptual clarity, that will be expected of you. Right? So I think you were already at 198. If a couple of things you could lead in that scenario, right? Obviously, I hope you've done stupendously well in mains, but a little more in interview, we wouldn't mind that.
Though we will take
Yeah.
one
Right?
without the interview, right, Shruti?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Namit, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, Shruti, you want to ask anything?
So that's what I wanted to ask, sir, about the currency question. So I think, sir, and also about the IFS question that you asked me, sir, was my answer all right, or was it coming across as being offensive to any the service?
No, it was not offensive. You say, yes, I have interest in global affairs and I have been studying that. But my conscious choice is that I will like to stay within the country because pursuing an academic subject can be totally different to your choice of service. So that you can say that it will not be offensive. Not be offensive.
So that is it.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
look the part, don't worry. Right?
Wish you,
Yeah,
wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am.